Well, hi everyone. It's me, Craig. No Jane today, I'm afraid. We're going to do a coffee with Craig session today rather than the two of us. Jane has been up the zoo with the grandchildren and has still up there, just quite tired from the trip. So we're going to do what we call coffee with Craig, and I'm sure some of you have seen these before. I'm going to make a few predictions in a moment. I'm going to say a few hellos to you. And I'm going to share some of my thoughts about what's coming up in the future. And then we can sort of take the show wherever you want to go with it. We can start asking questions about all sorts of things. And I'll share some of my thoughts about, where I think things are going, particularly some of my thoughts about what's going to be happening soon, particularly in the East. I feel there's something that's going to be happening over there. I see some of you already come in from Hong Kong. I'll say a few hellos just to say that. And because I see, here we are. Hi from Hong Kong. So I'm glad you've joined us, particularly. You might have some interesting thoughts about this because I'm going to talk a bit about China, the coronavirus, which all of us had at some point in our lives, I think. But we'll share some of my thoughts. I'm going to say a few hellos. Now, I'm doing this all on my own. So forgive me looking off the screen from time to time, but let's have a few hellos from you. Also, thank you, Rudy, as well, actually, for people who write into me with thoughts about, say, for example, things that I've got right in the predictions, things I might have missed in the press, and some of your ideas. I always do appreciate it, particularly those that are patrons and doing it on the Patreon channel, but also those of you that even just email me through the website. And so that's always very helpful. Hello from Canada. So we've got all around the world then today. Some of you must be up really early there. So you're saying Craig and Jane, but she's not with us today, Sheila. The cooler than you UK monsoon. Yeah, you've had terrible weather there, haven't you? I mean, some of the when you think that we're at boiling point here in the UK, I think they're pretty hot in places like Sweden and that as well, all around the world. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? When people say there's no such thing as global warming. Okay, I've got a bit of a cough today, as usual. Coughing with Craig, as I say. Hi from Miami. Thanks. Hi there, Ben. Nice to see you guys. There's more coming in from Canada. Yep. And hello there, Craig. Oh, hi, Craig, spelt wrong, from lovely southwest in Devon. So nice to see you all, guys, coming in. I'm going to ask you to put your questions as we move on. Watch out for scammers too, particularly if you're on Facebook at the moment. I noticed we've been targeted quite a lot. And actually, worryingly, my channel, particularly the website, has been targeted a lot from China. We tracked down that a China bot has been trying to take the site down. Why would they attack me? All I do is talk about freedom in Tibet. All I do is talk about a potential revolution in China. Makes you wonder. Here we are. I'm going to talk about some of those things in a moment, actually, just to set us off. They do, but not as addicted as you are in America, if that's where you are, Alexandra. Sorry, Jane can't be with us, so she will. She'll talk to you about your space aliens next time she's on, I'm sure. I expect she's watching because she'd have got home by now over at Danielle's, and we've over at Danielle's. They've been up the zoo today. So, and actually Danielle there, she's going to be helping us a lot with the show. Actually, we're going to do raising some funds later on to help with children, autistic children particularly, and help with some of the cost of living crisis. We've already started to clear that. So I hope you guys will help with all our work, and also, help us as being a patron too, because we could do with some help with the patron. We've got a lot of investment we've got to do. We've had some problems with sound, as you probably noticed on some of the earlier programs, and we're hoping to get it sorted out. So we need your support. Hi there, Rick. Nice of you to come in, guys. So, anything you can do to help help us tremendously, right? So I've just said a few of your hellos to you all. There's so many of you there. Thanks, guys. I'll just click a few of you so you get your name up there. I won't say hello to you personally, each one of you, but it's nice of you to interact like this, and lots of familiar faces and lots of you coming back regularly. Really nice to see you guys. It's really, Jane and I really appreciate the incredible sort of support we get from some of the comments and personal messages sent to us. Really appreciate it. And I'm surprised, really, because sometimes my predictions are not very happy ones. I'm going to talk about some of the thoughts that I've had over the week. I usually do a monthly sort of prediction, but I'll probably do another one later, so keep following the channel. Now, you might remember, I think it was last month, was it? It might have been June, it might have been July. But I said we thought it's all gone quiet on the front of the North Korea. And I said that it was all going to start to sort of build up again there now. And we've had some pretty worrying rumbles going on. And, usual with the mainstream press, they just don't cover, mainstream media just do not seem to cover what I think are very important issues. They'll make a lot of fuss about court cases and things lately in the UK because suddenly they can start filming judges and things here. But big issues are often ignored or put into the side or the back pages of the papers. It was the case with COVID, actually, wasn't it? That was it was a small news at first. But Kim Jong-un recently started threatening nuclear weapons, that he would use nuclear weapons against the US. So nobody pays any attention to that. But this guy is a nutcase. I think he was wearing red or something when he said this, or there was some sort of weird sort of clothing thing going on in the background, someone was saying to me. But why is he doing this now? Why is he suddenly started to bark again? And I said, you remember, it wasn't many weeks ago, I said, we're going to hear from Kim Jong-un and he's going to give us some worrying news. So I was picking it up. Why am I picking it up? Am I picking it up? It's just picked up something that's come up in the press, or is there something more behind this? Now, I think we're going to see there's a lot more going on in the Far East than the newspapers and the broadcasters are letting on to. I believe there's a real crisis brewing there. Now, I've said that in the beginning of the year, particularly when I make my predictions for 2022, which I usually make around about October time. So none of this is in the news when I make the predictions. And I said that this year, I said about Russia and all the rest of it and Ukraine, but there were rumbles of that at the time anyway. But I said the big one this year is going to be Taiwan. Now, it wasn't in the press so much before, but now it's everywhere. And everybody's starting to talk about the dangers of Taiwan. And the big one, well, it's a big one. It seems almost comic to me. But there's a row going on that Nancy Pelosi, I always get his name wrong, Nancy Pelosi, the funny-looking woman that always has wrong things to say, who I think is as daft as a brush. She's going to go to Taiwan. Now, obviously, a large number of people will think, well, let's hope the Chinese bomb Taiwan while she's there. Obviously not, but the fact that she's gone there is a red rag to a bull, and China just don't like this. We don't want American interference in what they consider as being their country. I don't think any Taiwanese person would say, we are still part of China. Their whole system there, their democracy, their beliefs in the ancient China. In fact, they hold the ancient Chinese artifacts that are the root of the emperor in Taiwan. I mean, it's like the spear of destiny that Hitler went to get from Austria when he went to war. He wanted the spear because whoever held the spear of destiny would rule the world. America, they reckon's got that now, but maybe the Chinese have got it. Anyway, I'm going off. But Nancy Pelosi's going over there. This is perhaps the beginning of what I've been saying, that I think there's going to be serious conflicts there. It must be on right up there in the alarms of all the European countries, but we're not hearing much about it, and they're sending her there. This is kind of, to the Chinese, a kind of an affront. So I was kind of getting that right. I've been saying that I think the main problem is going to occur at the time. You remember, if you saw my 2022 predictions, the main problems are going to occur at the time when we start getting the votes for the houses in America, when we start seeing Trump come back on the scene, which I feel he will then, and we start seeing a swing to Republicans. But then what a great time to start disrupting stuff. What a time to act. We always act when people are distracted. It's a good time to move in. In fact, Ukraine has been a big distraction for us all here in the West and for the Western media. You know, the eye has been taken off the ball when it comes to the East. Now, there's something else that I feel is happening there in China, because I said that there would be a kind of you know, if you go back a long way on my videos, because they're all still up there on the web, and they are on my website as well, but I'm going to update some of those so you can find them easily. But there is a whole, I said a long time ago that I feel that ultimately what's going to happen is China's going to implode. The CCP is going to be pulled down in a kind of, not quite like the Maoist revolution where there's bloodshed everywhere. I think it will be kind of there'll be a transition, and I think they will be pulled out of power eventually. I mean, they're the most powerful people in the world at the moment. These guys that run China. It's not just one or two. There's a group that run it. These are the hidden forces. Probably the hidden forces that are ruling other countries as well behind the scenes. Certainly the African countries, and certainly some of the small islands in the South Pacific and so forth that have hidden military and political forces working behind the scenes with huge bribes going on. I think a lot of that is going to be exposed soon. We're going to start to see corruption exposures, particularly I feel like in the South Sea Islands and things like that. Some of that's already known about, but big stuff. Panama, I feel there's going to be something happening with Panama and another Chinese influence that's kind of been blackmail or some sort, I feel. And I'm seeing it in Australia too, that there's going to be some political connection with people taking kind of sweeteners about China. And I feel this is going to start to come into the news, particularly as Nancy Pelosi does go to Taiwan. And there's another thing going on in the background that not many people are aware of, but this is kind of tied in very much with some of the things I said about the idea of China imploding. And that is that there's a mortgage crisis going on in China. I was watching some videos. One of my friends I was pleased to send me. And the people are protesting over there already. They're protesting, but they're being squashed. They're being told, you know, there's a COVID outbreak. Suddenly, right, everybody's get off the street, COVID outbreak, right? So they using this to stop all forms of protest. And it's been attempting to do it on social media, but of course they control the social media. So the CCP are keeping as many, trying to keep this really under wraps all the time. They don't want foreign publicity about it, you know. This program here that I'm talking about now is the sort of program that's liable to be banned because there's a lot of money floating around, even possibly influencing people like Google and Google that owns YouTube and so forth. Who knows what's going on in the background? These things really worry me. So China's been misusing the idea of lockdowns. You know, we had it in Singapore, but they had it other places. But they're locking down because people are worrying because they're not getting their money. You know, we had a huge property crash a while back in China. That was Evergrande, I think it was called. It caused all sorts of troubles and problems. A huge, great implosion there. But we're getting the same sort of situation again. It happened in America, didn't it? You know, with all the problems with overvalued properties in Florida. And it caused havoc. And I think I read somewhere a fact that I think it was 70% of ordinary people's wealth in China is invested in property, because they have a kind of a mentality there that if you're a property owner, you know, they think that if you own property, then you're a very eligible guy. You know, you've got assets. Property is always considered by the Chinese as being something that is, you know, a very high in value. You know, they'd rather a person have property than gold. Property is wealth, you know, with the capital W. And so people have been over-investing into that environment, and I see that imploding soon. And the problem is what happened, because we've also got world inflation. So this is me talking logically here, but remember I predicted all this some while back. So I'm really saying to you, these are the things I spotted. So we see an implosion happening in China that I feel will be of serious consequences for the world. With all this inflation going on as well, with the potential of cutting trade seriously with China, because slowly. I don't know what you think about this. Perhaps you want to say some comments about this. I mean, people have been sleepwalking into the jaws of China, the dragon's jaws. Really, I mean, so many places have been overwhelmed by Chinese goods coming in and clandestine sort of stealing of secrets, stealing business knowledge and things like that. There's been all this stuff going on where they've been taking all our knowledge. What's the use of all our universities and everything like that if everything we're developing is being shifted over to China, made on the cheap, without any concern about the environment? Pump out as much coal as you want to make this stuff and sell it back to us. We pay for it, they pollute, and meanwhile our factories are all stopping because we get everything manufactured in China. This device you're probably watching this program on was probably made in China, all of it. If you look around your room, all made in China. So I see it as extremely dangerous. And if China caves in, what happens? You know, well, I hope that coming out of this, and this is one of the things I said in the past, that what will come out of this ultimately will be a new China, a China that is democratic. So that's my first thoughts. So those are something, you know, that's some food for thought there. Also, Liz Truss, you remember, I also said that if you saw my video about who will be the next prime minister, well, Liz Truss was just one of the outsiders that nobody thought would win, while she was right the lowest of the lot in terms of a percentage of vote. She's now she's neck and neck with Rishi Sunak. So I think my prediction there looks like pretty obvious now it's going to happen. And we could talk about Liz Truss if you want, and where we're going to go with that. So I think in China, just to conclude on that, I get the feeling we're going to get another Tiananmen Square, right? Now, it might not be this month, but it might be soon. And at the same time, if you get something like that, what do you do? If you've got problems in your country, what do? You distract them. You take them onto a different topic. You take them onto Taiwan. So there's my worries. That's my thoughts. Those are my thoughts for the months ahead. I won't say the months, because I feel it's coming up quite soon, but certainly this year. Okay. Now I'll take a few of your questions and things, because I'm sure you've been making comments. I can see they've been coming up here. So anything you want to ask me about, I'm just going to click a few of you just as I look down the list, because it takes me a little while to spot the comments. So we've still got people coming in from all over the place. Yeah, the government and all of them lie to us, don't they just, eh? Don't they just? What do you think? Put your comments in now and put your comments in afterwards when we finish going live. Comment on Kim Jong. Kim Jong-un wanted to cozy up with Trump, but he would be particularly threatened by China and also Russia. And I thought with him, you know, I didn't go into much depth with that, but I get the feeling, you know, you've got two bullies in the playground ready to have a fight, you know, over Taiwan, right? And then you got this little guy, you know, who's got the football, which is Kim Jong-un, who wants to stir it up and cause the trouble. And I think he will, he's like a catalyst, you know, it doesn't start the action, but it speeds it up. And I think Kim Jong-un is going to be an important factor in this conflict over Taiwan. And it will cause chaos. And again, he's another one that ultimately I think will go through his own people, but it's not happened quite yet. I can't answer about the Indonesian election because I know nothing about it. So I have to know a little bit about it to be able to predict on that. And actually, I know I say that it's best I don't know anything when it comes to making predictions, because then there's nothing to influence my thoughts. But that one's too difficult for me. Here's a comment about China. China is a real mess now. Runs on banks, tanks, and banks. Banks, tanks, and banks. Yeah, COVID lockdowns. It is. And this is what I've been saying for years, that this will be, you know, you can have a very conformed and conformist population so long as things are going right. As long as people are fed and they got their TV and they got their pint of beer or whatever the equivalent is, their rice pint of beer in China, whatever their equivalent is, people are happy. But you start taking away the food, you start putting a recession in. Same here in the UK. Do you remember I said about I'm talking too much. I've got this cough still. I said all about the strikes coming. I got that right, didn't I? Again, 2022. I was saying about that was going to be. I said there's going to be rail strike, post office strikes, strikes at everything you can pretty much name. Nearly a general strike, and then they're talking about general strike. So I got that one right. I get things wrong, I admit too, but I was pretty spot on with that. So I think we're going to see things like this. I'm not getting a chance to read them, but I know Rudy always puts good comments. Again, with the color red, Kim Jong-un is also using it, just like the dream he had. Yeah, I think you wrote to me, didn't you, Rudy? Yeah, makes you wonder if the color has a theme for current events. Is it perhaps a signal or a flag or a secret sign that they show between each other? Red always associates with war and danger, don't we? I'm glad you like it, guys. Thank you. Yeah, here we go. This the spiritual world is ultimately, you're saying Satya Sai Baba, who's considered as being by many as being an avatar who will sort things out for us. But I think ultimately all this going on, we don't ultimately have to be too worried about it. I know, the world's about to explode and we worry. Like in our own lives, we worry if things aren't going right. But ultimately, all of it's about the spirit. This is the changeover from the times of Kali Yuga, as they call it, which I spoke about when I talked about the Puranas, over to the new age. And I really do think this is the bumpy path that we've got to go along. And it will get bumpy, and it'll get more bumpy, and it'll get more worrying, and everybody will be frightened out their minds, I think. But there's a dawn coming, and it's at the same time, people will start waking up. I mean, look at you lot. You're all watching this show. You're all people who I expect, most of you anyway, are wanting to wake up somehow. You're interested in spiritual things. You're interested in people like me and Jane, and you're interested in other people that speak like this. You might be intrigued by prediction ideas and things, but you're also thinking about the spiritual side of it. So there's a lot going on in the background, I think, in people's consciousness. And this is the saving grace. This is what will make the world a better place and ultimately make the world a safe place if we have good human values. It's absolutely essential. Yeah. I don't know when you put that comment in, but that's certainly the case, isn't it? And we got another one, a comment about Nancy Pelosi, which I think, Alexandra, you always make some interesting comments, so thank you. Nancy Pelosi is getting right up there in age, 80 something. She's done some good things, like tearing up Donny's speech, but it's time for her to retire now. Yeah, I'd imagine when you say it like that, she's done good things. I imagine you're a Democrat, but I'm sure the Republicans would have said that they absolutely loathe her. I always find her, I can't get on with the woman. The woman just rubs me up the wrong way, whatever side of the house she would have been on. I'm British, so I don't care what side gets in, really. But I mean, she's one of those people. It's almost she's like a red flag, really like a red flag to everybody. I'm sure the Chinese will love her, won't they? But I'm sure Taiwan are very, very pleased that this symbolically is important, because it's symbolically, it says we're on your side. Even though we've sent the village idiot in, we're sorry, I'm only joking. We're on your side, and that symbolism is the most powerful weapon of all, isn't it? It's the most powerful weapon of all. I was going to catch you. I haven't read them all. Hi, Craig. This is Amrita from Vancouver, Canada. More power to you. Oh, thank you. We also have a mortgage interest rates to the high, making people's lives very unaffordable. Any relief from that anytime soon? And again, we have exactly the same problems here in the UK. We're at the point where we're going to get inflation. It's right. We're starting already, but when we talk about inflation can be an enormously damaging force in the world. We've had COVID around the world. We've had lockdowns, haven't we? We've had crises in many industries that were surprised they even survived. I mean, how did the airline industry make it through? How did the hospitality make it through? Now we go back to try to use these services and we realize they've all fallen apart. And meanwhile, China on the rise. But, So it always hits housing, doesn't it, when we get this? Because what happens, everybody is told to borrow up to their eyebrows and can't manage and have to sort of swim, hardly can get through the month because the mortgages are so high for everybody. Enormously stupid deposits that you have to put on houses. I mean, it was certainly in my day, finding a deposit was always hard, but not to that level where you have to wait years and years and years until you're nearly in your 30s before you can even think about a home. And that's not just in Canada or in Britain, it's in the UK, and it's in the USA, it's in China too. They've got the same problem. Now, this inflation comes, what happens? Interest rates go up. Interest rates go up, your mortgage goes up, and not just in a few pounds or dollars a month. It starts to go up in big increments, just like we've got the problems with energy crisis, you know. And these were things I was talking about a long time ago. Again, you remember, if you watched my earlier videos, you can go back and watch them on the website, some of them, or certainly on the channel here. Will it end nice and smoothly, a nice smooth landing? Unfortunately, I think not. I think we're going to see a housing crisis, and that we're going to see people with negative equity in their homes, unable to pay the fuel bills, unable to fill their cars with fuel, and unable in many cases to eat properly. And this affects the middle class as well, you know, and all people. No one's going to escape from this. And this will cause, I think, an awful lot of social unrest around the world. And this will cause economic problems. And when economic problems come to this scale, it don't take a psychic to tell you, things become a lot more volatile, don't they? They become a lot more volatile. Okay, let's have a look at some more of your things here. But also, while you're on, guys, if you become a patron, you can come and talk to me on Zoom. And I'm planning this week to do some new stuff for those of you that follow me that are already patrons. I'm going to do some psychic development groups on my Zoom. So, you know, people, mediums like myself who are well known, often charge huge amounts of money to do workshops, you know, and they charge stupidly. But I'm going to sort of do some kind of psychic development workshops on Zoom. I'll keep doing the other Zooms, like where we get people and we have a chat about things. But I want to start doing that. And so if you're interested, come and become a patron. You'd have to sort of, you'd have to start from the Delphi tier, not the Delphi tier, the Elysium tier on the patrons. It's all in the description below. You'll get a link, or on my website, it's psychics.co.uk. And come and join me. It's a kind of an inexpensive way to get advice about mediumship and get some guidance and get some personal help. The way I will do it is the first part will be more general instructive, and that will go on YouTube and some of you guys will be able to watch it. And then after that, I'm going to do some stuff where we can do more personal stuff that's not recorded, and you can have a practice with me, and we can try some mediumship live. But that last part probably won't go on. I'll ask people how they feel about it, but certainly there'll be some public stuff, but also some private stuff. So come and join me. I'm going to also try to do some of these Zooms at different times a day. I often usually do them at 3 o'clock UK time, which catches a lot of people around the world, but I might try some later times, maybe do some in the evenings sometimes, and take the afternoon off on these hot days, and have a shift around with the timing. And don't forget also, Jane's got her channel on here, remember guys, too. That's she's not on today, but she has been putting some interesting videos up. She did one that caused a bit of a stir about woke, just like we did one last week on that. So go and have a look at Jane's channel as well. It's all in the description below, and you can have a look at the website too, where we've got all sorts of things going on. My new books, I'll tell you about those in a minute because I'm overdoing it here. So let's have a look what you guys have to say here. Okay, this is interesting on the China one. I rather hope China got weakened. It's definitely a malign force for freedom, but imploding can be very scary, dangerous scenario, especially to my hometown, Hong Kong. The danger always makes me consider moving to the UK. Yeah, I mean, I've got quite a few customers in Hong Kong who have email readings with me and Zoom readings and so forth. And you Chinese must tell each other, because they all tell each other, and I suddenly find they're all people from the same factory and think they've been having readings with me. And it has been expressed. It's interesting because people like me kind of get the pulse of things that media doesn't touch. I get to hear what Chinese people think. And I know that you are very, very worried there in Hong Kong. And a lot of the people working in Singapore are very, very worried at the moment. There's a lot of underlying fear, I feel, in China, because you know something's going on, but you don't know what it is. And I can understand a lot of people wanting to move to the UK. I think I was given some readings to people recently, and I saw when I was doing, because a lot of the stuff I pick up for world predictions often come when I'm doing international readings with people, Zoom and things. And I recently I was doing something for a Chinese person, and I saw people all coming back, all the Europeans coming back from China real quick, all the people leaving Singapore, all the people that go from Germany, Austria, and building the factories and things over there, all rushing home. So I think there's going to be a big clampdown on trade with China. What Trump originally wanted, which Biden hasn't done, he spoke about doing all this, but never did a thing about it. Trump was big on that. I think he was absolutely right on that. But I'm seeing something like that happening soon too. So I think we're going to start to see a trade war with China. So this would have a lot of effect on anybody thinking about doing investments. Where you're going to put your money. And you may be better off putting your money in gold and silver and things like that, because I think there's going to be a very volatile period ahead. There we go. Just so these are interesting. Alexander, I always click yours because I think you always give some sensible questions. My boyfriend and I were in Hong Kong just before the British handed it to China. People were packing up their businesses, Chinese Hong Kong. They were extremely sad to leave. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of sadness out there about Hong Kong itself, isn't there? About there's a lot of, the British didn't do too bad in Hong Kong, I think. The British rule in a lot of countries was dreadful. I'm not so sure. I don't know. Probably people that disagree with that, but they kept a sort of a bit of a law and order there. And I think it grew tremendously under British rule. So, perhaps the British Empire wasn't all that bad. Was it? Put your comments below. I'm sure a lot of you will disagree with that very much. Well, that's an interesting one, James. I don't think Putin can quite afford to do it. I think he can use it as a threat. The likelihood, I think, is he'll turn it off and turn it back on again. He'd like to see the German economy stutter to a stop. And the problem is then what will happen? Will Germany's, I think Germany, particularly out of the European countries, has been very cowardly. They've always talk about the importance of, unity, and that Europe must stand together and the world must stand together for democracies. But as soon as there's a threat to turn off their oil and all their factories come to a stop, they're quite prepared to let Britain come to a stop over Brexit. Not as bad as France, but, they're prepared to let others suffer. But when it comes to their own doorstep, they become whimpering fools. And we're beginning to see, I think, in Germany particularly, Angela Merkel's failures. Because, she set all this up. And I said before, I thought Angela Merkel would go down as not as great a person as she appeared at first, because, we're seeing the legacy of bad sucking up to Russia, and just the way people now are sucking up to China. How can we possibly do this? These are dictatorships, these countries. These are countries that would cut our throat to take what we've got. And yet we deal with them all the time. You deal with the devil, you're gonna get the devil's rewards. Okay, that's quite a good phrase. Yeah, we're still back on the China. I think it's quite interesting the way you're picking up on this ideas, though, guys. I think it is quite interesting. Everyone in China knows CCP is using the pandemic as an excuse to restrict their people, but unfortunately, no one is allowed to protest for that. This is what happens when they take away your freedoms, when they take away, much as I don't like Google because I think it's a monopoly, they pulled out of China, well, they had to, but they were also, oops. It's all right. It's coming back. Yeah, okay, we'll get that. Sometimes when it gets very hot like this, my camera overheats. So you'll probably get a couple more a couple more times it might still do this for a few times, then it settles itself down. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, so you take away your freedoms, you can't protest. So who controls social media controls the world. Who controls the lockdowns controls the world. Who controls the money flow? This is where there's the danger, isn't there, of a cashless society. You just turn off the cash. No one can travel. No one can go and protest. You can't buy the petrol. You haven't got a credit card. It's happened in China. And we're going to let it happen here. We're going to let it happen all over the world. And what sort of dreadful world will we have? We're giving our power away. We think we have democracy, but we don't. We're giving it away. We're giving it away. We had, my dad and my granddad and all the others and all your dads and granddads, I expect a lot of you, they went and fought for freedom in the First World War with my granddad and Jane's stepdad was on those Russian convoys, making sure that the Russian people could be fed, cried every time he heard about, he saw the stories of the Russian convoys and saw his mates burning in the oil in the water, if the German U-boats hit them and all that. All those people fought so we could have freedom. And now we just give it away. Oh, yeah, click here, give away all your information. Click here, give away all your personal freedoms. Buy this product nice and cheap because it comes from a country like China, and danger, alarm bells. People died so we could have these freedoms, and they're gone. And now we also, this is another pet hate of mine, which I'll have to do a video on. I really get so upset about the way people nowadays are messing with history, changing it. I mean, people always have messed with history, but that's always usually the dictatorships that do that. But we've got people out there now who are messing with the history of Europe, the history of each country, and saying and trying to make it fit it and fit it into what today's values are, and saying all this was bad and that was bad, and every Anglo-Saxon person who's ever walked this earth is an evil person. I mean, it strikes me as that's dangerous too, because these are the things without all those people that fought, we wouldn't have the world we got today. We'd have had, we'd have had God knows what. Hong Kong's transfer to China was the consequence of the US wanting to cozy up with China to go against USSR. So it kind of forced UK to give up on Hong Kong in the name of decolonization. Yeah. Granddad. Coffee with Granddad. It don't sound quite the same, does it? Yes, this all happened, didn't it? And I was saying that also, this is again that I was saying in my predictions for 2021. I remember saying about that there would be an alliance between Russia and China that would kind of challenge the West. And really, I suppose it's been happening a long time, really. China and the USSR always used to be bitter enemies. I mean, they never got on with each other. But now, it's my enemy's your enemy. And I feel that Hong Kong was really was kind of given. It was done as a deal. That isn't it always the same with politics around the world? Always, we'll throw things away that are of value. We don't consult the people. If that would have been better if Hong Kong had been an independent country like Taiwan. It'd probably been very hard, but surely that would have been the way to go. Not give it to China, who make all these empty promises. I think Hong Kong actually may be the thorn in the side of China eventually. I saw a revolution in China in the future, and ahead, of course, after that came the umbrella revolution, as it were, an umbrella protest. But I saw it coming from elsewhere. I felt as if it would come somewhere strange. I said in my right early predictions, going back a long way now, I felt as if something was going to occur in Mongolia, sort of thing. Well, we got all that Ouija business that kind of came in an obscure part of China. I mean, and again, we turn a blind eye to all that. We buy the products and they got concentration camps, or we turn our eyes away from China and the terrible things that they did in Tibet. Terrible things. If you look at the history of what the Chinese invasion of Tibet, And just as bad as we're getting now with Russia. I mean, terrible things they're doing to castrating people, they say, who've been taken captive, it said in the press today. And so, we can't allow these sort of countries to gain dominance, because these so-called, we all say, oh, we got no democracy, it's all been taken away from. We got the remnants of it, and we got to bring that back. We need the people talking, not the politicians. And we really do have to value it more, because we're giving it away for cheap goods. End of story. And we're all victims of that, and we're all responsible, particularly with things such as Amazon and things like that. We buy it made in China, made in China. It should have a big sign on Amazon on every single product: made in China, made in Britain, made in Germany, made in France. So most of it will be red flags, but at least we get the chance to think, oh, I'm going to buy from Europe, or I'm going to buy from Britain. I'm going to support countries with a low carbon footprint. But now, will they do that? I doubt it very much. And I'll just click on a few more of you guys. Hi, Craig. Do you see it ever coming to light widely in India that USSR influenced and bought off Congress party leaders now in opposition since 1950s? And that's how we got Russia as an ally. Yeah, a very interesting one, actually, that also I thought about as well, because it's funny how India was not very vocal, was it, when it came to the invasion of Iraq? They were still buying Russian military hardware at that time, and continued to, I believe, and cozied up to Russia, and also Russia as their friend. And I don't know whether the Indian population would feel the same. It'd be very interesting to hear any comments from those of you watching from India. Is Russia your friend or not? I mean, I'm not saying because Russia's done Ukraine, doesn't mean to say it's the enemy of all countries. But I would say that Russia is not a friend of democracy. And India is the biggest democracy in the world. And as a country, as a potential that could become a real light for the world. I've talked about it as a spiritual light for the world, but as a democratic light for the world too. India could be an incredibly powerful place. Has there been bribery and corruption? I certainly think there's been a huge amount of bribery and corruption. Unfortunately, India has had a lot of problems through its history. I mean, I remember we wanted to go into this temple and they wouldn't let us in, and they had this man in his uniform. No, you can't go in. So a few rupees, opens the door, sees us in, rolls out the red carpet, bribed your way in. And I thought, God, that's just on that level, and I'm sure on the top, and it's not just India, of course, all countries. And this is what weakens our democracies. Corruption. It's there in America, isn't it? Huge corruption. Look at all the Biden stuff, all the stuff hidden away there that's all been covered up, all the computer stuff and everything. Your Biden's son, I'm talking about, all that, we have to root out corruption. And the problem is the way we did it in the past. I don't know if you agree with me on this, but the way we did it in the past was through having comparatively free newspapers. Okay, they were owned by the Murdochs of this world, but they kind of still ran comparatively independently. And we had investigative journalism. Now journalism is what you call aggregates. It just pulls a bit from here, pulls a bit from Reuters, pulls a bit off that program, reshuffles it and puts it on YouTube and the rest of it. And we get a kind of a distorted, twisted sort of journalism. We get, of course, all the alternative media, which is good to see. And I know a lot of you, say, Craig, you shouldn't watch mainstream media. You should only watch this. But you see a lot of YouTube channels. And the problem with them is they're not researched. They're not deeply researched, where investigative journalists have spent, like some of these great TV programs where you get stories of the investigative journalists, like expose this and that. We don't get that. We don't get the old style, investigations that you get from people like the Washington Post. You might not like them, but also used to get it from the Times, used to do real investigative stuff. They can't afford to. They haven't got the money to do that because it's all gone online. And without their revenues, they're done. Well, I'm just going to scroll down the list a bit because I'm kind of a bit high up here with the cool, cruddy, thousands and thousands of comments. Oh, there's a comment about India. Yeah. It's very disappointing to see many Indians supporting Russia so much. Most of the Indians I find on Twitter hate the West, probably because they helped Pakistan and suppressed India decades ago. The West does have a lot to account for. I mean, India, before the Mughal invasion, India was probably one of the richest countries in the world. It was the descriptions of India before the invasion of the Mughal Empire was fabulous, and it was destroyed. It was raped by the Mughal Empire. We look at the Taj Mahal and say, "What a beautiful building," but they tore down a great, even more beautiful building. They believe that was one of the greatest, biggest Shiva temples in India. And so it was a beautiful building, the Taj Mahal, no doubt about it. But India was destroyed, and then when the Mughals went, the British come in and support what was left of those Islamic empires, and did even worse damage. I mean, we gave them democracy, fabulous. But I'm sure India would have developed that sort of thing anyway. They had their own system. We gave them railways. I suppose that's pretty good. It helped them with that type of thing. But, India was already streets ahead of us. So I can understand that, and I can understand Indian people. You do have to take sides with Pakistan and India. I mean, it was the British that said we got to have Pakistan. Gandhi didn't want it. He said we want one country. I don't want to be prime minister. Let's have I've forgotten his name. The Islamic man be the one that's in charge of the country. Fabulous. Could have worked. But the British, just like the Middle East, why are there all straight lines dividing places like Iran and Iraq and Saudi Arabia and that? Because we went along with a ruler and divided it up and said, that's the countries, pay no attention to the people. That's your country. Get on with it, So we do have a lot to account for. Yeah, a lot of good groups on Facebook too. I notice for Indians in America, some very interesting stuff going on. And Sharavana went over to Canada recently, I believe. So that's nice. I'm always pleased to see Indian philosophy moving. As you know, I'm very pro-India because I love their culture. I believe I was Indian in previous lives many times, but I'm so drawn to it. And I'll also be another thing. I'll be having Nadi readings on the website soon. So if those of you that are interested in that, keep an eye on the site. We're going to be doing some updates in the next month or so. Oh, well, we got one here that sounds interesting. Hope to see this, Craig. Will Web3 blockchain has more freedom than Web2, Facebook, YouTube, PayPal, or worse? Well, I think the whole thing about all these things is freedom of it, really, isn't it? Do we get it's people that make it all up in the end, not technologies, and it's people's reaction to these things. I don't really know yet. I don't know enough about it really to be able to answer that one seriously. Oh, Alexander again. I just clicked. I didn't realize you again. You keep coming up. I grab your comments. Southern India has amazing energy around Madras and Bangalore. Chennai, you mean? I've been 7 times. Do you think it carries energies from the past like Krishna's time? Yes, without a doubt. And further back to Krishna's time. I mean, every step of India is holy ground. You think there's been so many avatars, great teachers, and God knows what people like Krishna were like, or what Rama was like, or what these people who did walk the earth, I believe. Who were these people that walked that holy land? And I feel that India is one of the most holy places on earth, and it's a big country, and particularly southern India, actually, because southern India was kind of it. There's all sorts of debates in India as well about the Aryans and all the rest of it. But southern India, I think, retained the knowledge of ancient times from Kumari Kandam, what some would call Lemuria. And there's certain places there that are so energetically charged. Mahabalipuram was one that I felt incredibly animated by. I also found the mountain of Arunachala enormously powerful, and Ramaswara, I think it was called, in the south with all the wells and things. I mean, those places, they're just energy. And India used to extend, I believe, far out into the sea. I think a lot of India sank. And there's even more greater things hidden under waters of India, I believe. That's my thoughts. Anyway, and maybe one day we'll find all that. Now, we'll take a few more. I'm going to lighten it up a bit soon, I hope. We've been talking mainly quite heavyish subjects tonight, haven't we? Shana saying, hi, Craig. With Ukrainians getting killed, maimed daily, my heart cries. Do you foresee that Polish armed forces will somehow become involved in the Ukraine-Russian war? Will Belarus attack Ukraine? I don't think Belarus will attack Ukraine. I mean, Russia went into Ukraine via Belarus. And you remember I said, again, in my predictions going back some way, that I felt as if there might be a change of government ultimately in Belarus. I get a feeling that Belarus is going to be one of those countries that's not quite as stable as they think it is. And I feel the people in Belarus, I know nothing about Belarus politics, and I might be talking somewhere wrong. I shouldn't be talking, but I don't know anything about it. But I just, when I was focusing earlier in the year about my predictions, my thoughts went to Belarus. I sometimes just look at a map and places kind of light up for me, and Belarus lit up for me. This is before the Ukrainian war, and I felt a feeling that there's a lot of corruption in that country that's going to be overturned. And it may not be immediately, because I think it's still a bit further to come. But I think Belarus is going to become more of an ally to the West than it is to Russia. So that's now, I'm not sure about the Polish armed forces becoming involved. I know they were going to lend them airplanes, for example, and do a swap or something, weren't they, early on? Poland certainly is a country that, you know, if you look at Polish history, it's all, they divided it up in the past. Poland was one of the most powerful countries in Europe. It was huge when you go back in history. This is why I think we should look at history. My history is not very good, but you know, I know that Poland was a force to be reckoned with, a very affluent country, and it was cut up by the Prussians and cut up by the Russians and the rest of it, and then invaded ultimately, and held as a satellite state to Russia. So the Polish should be worried. And here in Southampton, where I was, well, we're in Eastleigh, but I'm near Southampton where I was born. Big Polish community from the war times, because so many of the Polish pilots were flying out of the New Forest and things like that, and based here near where I am. And I've always felt with the Polish people, you know, that Poland is a country that was defeated. But it still had a tremendous pride. And I think Poland will grow to become quite a powerful force again. I mean, I think this is waking the Polish government and people up to the dangers of needing to militarize. And it's a shame that any country militarizes whatsoever, frankly. We shouldn't be wasting money on that when we got an environmental crisis and we can't pay our fuel bills. What a waste of money. But this is the price we pay if we don't support and value our democracies. This is what the price we pay, as I said it earlier on, for cheap goods. You know, we buy cheap goods from China, we buy cheap oil from Russia, and what we pay with, we don't pay with many dollars, but we pay with an awful lot of loss of freedom. So I don't foresee Poland armed forces becoming involved directly. I haven't seen that. They might do, but I haven't seen that directly. So I'm not saying they won't, but I haven't seen it in my thoughts about things. But I think Poland will certainly put a lot more pressure on Europe. The worry is that people are forgetting about Ukraine. It's no longer headline news. You've never seen it on the front pages of the newspapers for a while, and the atrocities are going on there. This is when the danger sets in, when our attention goes elsewhere. So I'd just like to again remind you, actually, where's Malay? She's gone to the zoo. Okay, we're taking the grandkids to the zoo. But anyway, I just want to say, guys, you know, thanks for supporting this. Thanks for supporting this channel. Thanks for giving it lots of likes. When we're getting, like I said earlier on, you know, we're getting a lot of hits, negative hits from China sometimes, because we spotted a bot coming onto the website causing problems. So perhaps we've been targeted negatively. So your support is tremendous. Your thumbs ups are tremendous. It'd be great if you, when the video is finished, come back and give it a thumbs up or give another comment, because it helps us to keep the algorithm happy. You know, these robots come and push videos up if they like it. So those of you that like to support us, keep coming back, keep putting comments, keep looking at our other videos and just coming back and joining the comments. It's all great. It all helps. And support us as well, if you can, with the patrons, because we've got so many plans for this. We've had, as you probably gathered, a number of pretty big setbacks recently. All our studio's still there, but we need a bit of help. So if you can become patrons, it helps us. And I'm going to be doing lots of stuff on Zoom on for the patrons again. Like I said, I want to start doing some mediumistic sort of teaching classes, which you'll be welcome to join me. And I've got a new book out, actually, which I have hardly even mentioned, called Secret Psychics. It's one of my older books, actually, but revamped. It's not been, what was a book I wrote, but never published. So I think you'll find it quite interesting. It's some older ideas. It's more like question and answers type stories, and stories of people's ghosts and angels and all loads of stuff that I kind of accumulated when I used to write a lot for the newspapers, because I used to write for the Daily Mail quite a lot, the Mirror as well, all sides, and the women's magazines, Scottish Daily Record, Scotland on Sunday, all people, all sorts. So anyway, so some of the stuff from the stories that were sent to me that I was able to get rights to publish are in here. So you might enjoy that. And if you're really interested in predictions and all the rest and our spiritual work, I'm selling to you, but you've got to buy my book, Be Happy. I've mentioned it lots of times, but this is the one where Jane and I have been off to see Sharavana Baba, my journeys to India. But it's a philosophical book. It's not just about a guru. There's a lot in there about that. And it's not just about predictions, which is predictions for the world and things, some of my thoughts in there, but also about how can we be happy, you know, because we talk here, you know, we're quite cheerful people. I know from the comments, and me and Jane are quite cheerful people. But through these difficult times, happiness is probably the thing that was the worst thing for people like the CCP, and the worst things for the CCCP from Russia. You know, happiness is one of the antidotes to all the terrible troubles that go on in this world, isn't it? You know, if we can be happy people, happiness has a funny way of rubbing off on each other, doesn't it? You know, happiness has a way to make us be able to cope with difficult things. And happiness is not something that's necessarily always out there. It's something we carry with us all the time. And if we can learn to carry happiness with us all the time, then, you know, we talk about all these prophets of doom stuff that I'm talking about here. But I mean, we can just retain our happiness within ourselves. We've beaten it. You know, we've beaten the problems of the world. We've beaten all those horrible negative people out there that want to do us harm or hurt us or bring us down or try to undermine us or discredit us. We've beaten them. And I'm not talking about some inane sort of, I'm happy. We're talking about a real happiness, you know, a quiet happiness in many respects. And I think that's, in many respects, I think the message that Jane and I try to put to the world for you guys that join us, you know. And we try to be examples of it. We try to keep happy, even when things get rotten, you know, because we all get difficult times, all of us, all the time. But I think if you can maintain a certain happiness, in a way, it's not the highest of spirituality, but it's a step towards it, isn't it? I mean, that idea, I suppose the highest level of spirituality is a sort of divine compassion, divine love, whatever we can call that, which is kind of hard to explain. There's a sort of, that's the highest. But happiness, isn't it not an expression of love to each other, an expression of our joy, the joie de vivre, of being alive, of being human, of this incredible opportunity that all of us have by being here on earth, really, you know? We're very lucky people just to be here, you know? We're very lucky people to have human incarnation. And actually, these are some of the most important times in human history now, because I feel this is a turning point towards much, much happier times. Anyway, I'm going to say my goodbye. So I'm just to let you guys have a last few words and say your happy comments, because I see, don't worry, be happy, you know, and happiness is a choice, and intention, indeed it is, Michelle. Very true. Be happy is another one that's coming in there. I always like these comments of praise. That's so nice of you guys. You know, I am picking only the nice comments. Craig is an idiot. No, we won't put that one up. It's unconditional love. That's the key. That's another way we could perhaps express it. Not just the idea of love that this is someone I love, this is my personal love, but love that's just done for the sake of it, you know. And it's like I say, it's about giving up the fruits in many ways, living life because life is just there, you know. And we just do our best, not just drop the selfishness, and the world will be a happy place, won't it? Yeah, and be positive too is always very. Perseverance is another thing I think too is important. That we have. This is something I learned from the I Ching a lot. You know, we have to we have to live with perseverance as well. We need dynamism. We need what we do is love and happiness is not a passive thing. It's an active, dynamic thing, and I think that's very important too. Yeah, hopefully they do. Hopefully they do. The goodies. Yeah, actually, yeah, I like the old style comedies. I really do like the old stuff from, I know, it dates me a lot, but, you know, I like Only Fools and Horses and things. I like Alf Garnett as well. I mean, if you've not watched him, he's well worth a watch if you've never seen him before. You know, it really makes your hair curl if you have got any left, you know. And healing as well is important, isn't it? I mean, the more positive thoughts we all have, guys, the more the world becomes a better place. And mantra is another one, actually. You're talking about the Gayatri mantra there. This can be a very positive force that can actually stimulate a lot of happiness in people. Gayatri is a very good one to do. It might not appeal to everybody, but this is one of the things that will come in the coming age, actually, to rediscover the power of mantra. This will be an amazing thing. At the moment, they think, oh, it's just chanting. Actually, there's much, much more to it than that, you know. So, yeah, so have a wonderful weekend, all of you. And thank you again for joining us here today, because it makes it a pleasure to be able to do this type of work, actually. You know, to keep seeing such nice comments from you all, you know. Yeah, so it's don't forget to keep following the channel. We'll put some more comments out later, and don't forget about all this business I keep telling you about becoming a patron to the site, because it really helps me and Jane to keep the whole thing going. We want to do a lot more. I'm gonna and it also gives us a chance to communicate. Also, when we do the patron stuff, we make a few new videos as well out of it, which is great too. So we killed two birds with one stone. So there's gonna hopefully a lot to come. We got some good surprises for the future for you actually lined up too, which we've not told you about. But you know, we'll see you soon anyway. So bye for now, everybody. See you soon. So would you like to know more? Come and see my website at psychics.co.uk, where you can buy my books. You can also read lots of free articles, and you can join our Patreon community if you like there. You can also book readings with myself and Jane. I do readings by Zoom and by email. Jane does them one-to-one at home. So have a look on the website, you'll find all that. And you'll also find our team of readers who do international work. So you can book a psychic, a medium, an astrologer there. And they're available now for phone readings 24/7. So visit our website, psychics.co.uk. You'll find a link in the description below.